$25 billion in sales. I did $480 million in sales just on that one product. There's actually a mathematical formula that I was taught back in my organization called the Brotherhood, the group that kind of is the shadow government behind all the governments. I was given the entire success puzzle. You can focus your attention on what you want in a narrow beam on a brainwave frequency right in between alpha and theta, which is really the wealth wave, the billionaire brainwave. And you'll start making money in spite of yourself, and it will almost seem like you're making money by accident. There are some common denominators that very successful people will do that aren't in any of the books. The first thing that you have to do, and nobody talks about this in any book on success, is
what it is. Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you. Kevin Trudau's in the house. Welcome back, I should say.
Welcome back. Well, glad to be here.
Now, if you guys don't know who Kevin Trudau is, you're probably a brand new puppy. But if you know, if you've been around a minute, you would remember Kevin, number one, because he had the memory program.
You would remember the memory program.
Yes, you would. And you would see him all over infomercials back. I don't even know when it was.
Back in 1989, I went on TV infomercials and basically controlled most of the infomercial time in the United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and South Africa. So 80% of all the stuff that was on there at a certain point in time, like in Australia, was all our programming.
Yeah, and you were making, millions. And what you just told me, I said, excuse me?
Yeah,
you said billions.
Billions. We did all the enterprises, not just infomercials, but the mining operations and all the other companies I had. I had 3 TV networks in Europe. I launched the Golf Channel. I launched a shopping network called Shop America, which was second to QVC. But altogether, in today's dollars, it's estimated around $25 billion in sales. So they were really big enterprises with, thousands of employees, which sounds exciting and so forth, but, can be a lot of headaches and hassles as well. But it was a very fun enterprise, and the enterprises were all interconnected because everything we did was designed to positively impact people's lives in some way. It wasn't just to make money. And there was a lot of deals that came by. Oh, we can make a lot of money here, Kevin. We can make a couple $100 million on this. And I just didn't have any interest. It really had to fall into the mission or the purpose, which was to positively impact people's lives. And I had to promote things that I was actually using and taking, and I got benefit from, and my family members and friends were. And only at that point did I say, okay, we can now offer this to the public because this is something that people really need to know about, or a program like Mega Memory, or the speed reading program we had, or the math program we had, or the Natural Cures book that I came out with. These are the things that I was utilizing in my life and seeing great benefit. And then we could offer it to others as well. And in the process, there was a lot of profit as well.
Are you from Canada?
No, but Trudau, the last name, obviously like the Prime Minister of Canada. My father's line is French-Canadian, but my mother's Italian.
But you say process.
I do say process because I spent so much time living in Zurich, Switzerland, and also in Sydney, Australia, which were 2 of my favorite cities that I lived in. And I kind of got into the habit of saying process.
So when you were like in your heyday, how much money were you bringing in? Like, were you just extravagantly wealthy?
Well, we were running in just the United States. We were spending around $2 to $3 million a week in advertising. And we were generating a ratio. Now in the marketing world, they call it ROAS, return on ad spend. Back then, we just said ratio. If you spent $2 million and you brought in $4 million, you did a 2 ratio. So we were doing 3 to 5 ratios. So we were bringing in a substantial amount of money every single week, but more importantly, a substantial amount of positive cash flow profit every single week as well. And that was just in the infomercial world. That didn't include the networks and the mining operations and the manufacturing and the other things I had going on too, which most people didn't even know about.
Yeah. So did you get it from your notoriety, all that deal flow, or did you have all that and then pop this up?
I had most of that first. And then obviously when the infomercial started with Mega Memory, which was the first one, I did $480 million in sales just on that one product back in the 90s, Mega Memory. And then we had a whole host of other ones as well.
So you were already like in business. You were already an entrepreneur. Were you already successful?
Yeah, I started my first company when I was 15 years old. I was in direct mail. This is back in the 70s. And because there was no internet, we used to actually communicate either with the telephone or by mailing people letters. So no one knew how old I was. And I was writing these direct mail pieces for other guys, very famous direct mail experts and marketing guys. They didn't know how young I was, but I had a real knack for marketing and writing sales letters. So I would get royalties on their sales. So before I was 18, I had made millions and millions of dollars in royalties that they were sending me, not knowing that I was some kid in high school.
So how did you get into it?
Well, I read a book back in the 70s. I was reading, remember the National Enquirer?
Sure.
Okay, that was a real hot thing back then. So there was these full page ads for different products, and a lot of them were get rich quick schemes. And there was one by a guy named Ben Suarez who said, I have a business, a way that you can generate huge amounts of money. And the name of the book was 7 Steps to Freedom, How to Escape the American Rat Race. So I sent in my money and I got this thick book. And man, I had to have a dictionary next to me because I was so young. I didn't know half of the words and I didn't even understand what the hell he was talking about, but he was teaching you how to get into the direct mail business. And after reading that, I said, well, I'm going to get into the direct mail business. So I started running classified ads in the National Enquirer and the Globe and some of the other, magazines. And all of a sudden, I didn't realize that I had written some of these spectacular direct mail pieces. Other guys in the industry took note and they would reach out to me and said, hey, will you write ads for me? And we'll pay you a royalty. So not only did I have a successful mail business operation, running out of my house when I was a kid, 15 years old, but I was also writing ads for other people. And then they were paying me these huge royalty checks on all of the sales. And I had just a natural knack to figure out by tapping into kind of the field of what were a person's buttons, what would motivate them, what made sense that would get them to take action and actually buy a product.
Your parents, what were they doing? My
dad was a welder. My mom was a full-time house wife and homemaker. And they had no idea, except they were a little bit confused when the mailman used to come with 1 or 2 mail bags full of mail. And I would recruit some of my buddies to come in and we would open up all these letters and there would be cash, and I would take the cash in a bag and then I would go down to the bank and deposit this huge amount of cash. And a lot of it I would keep and I would, let me get a safe, and let me put the money in the safe. And this was just like a fun thing. And again, it was very easy. I had a real knack for this. And I realized that I was doing some things that almost anybody could really do with their mind first, which would generate money, not necessarily in direct mail. They could be successful in almost anything. And I started telling a lot of my friends, this is how you have to think. And if you get this thinking right, then an idea will come to you and kind of like, the windows will open up and you'll start making money in spite of yourself. And it will almost seem like you're making money by accident. Many of my friends, all of a sudden, one guy got into the car business, another guy got into a plumbing business, another guy started a glass company. And they just started making crazy money. And we came from a community where everybody was a blue collar worker. My dad was a union welder, worked for the GE.
Where were you living?
Lynn, Massachusetts, which was a union. It was a union blue collar place. We lived in a house. It was like 1,200 square feet with 1 bathroom. And everybody lived like that. It was just small little homes, and nobody went to college. Nobody owned their own business. The whole game was get into the union or work for the government. And the joke was, if you work for the government, it's better than your union because you don't have to do anything and they can't fire you. And that was how it was growing up in Massachusetts, union or government job, and you're set for life. And I was like, no, if you have goals and dreams, you're going to have to be in a business of your own. You can't work for somebody. You can do that to start as you're building some money and you need that to pay the bills. But if you want financial freedom, you have to be your own boss. You have to be in a business of your own and get either a business working for you or getting your money working for you.
So The book, by the way, guys, if you want this book, it's an excellent audio book because I've never read the book. I'm listening to the book and your narration is impeccable. It's almost like you're talking. It's like, in other words, it's a well-read audio book. If you guys like audio, go get the audio book. You can also get the hardcover. And I would imagine just go to kevintrudau.com.
kevintrudau.com. And also it's available at Amazon.
And this is Your Wish is Your Command. And it's how to basically manifest your desires.
Yeah, it takes, a lot of people are familiar with Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
Or in modern times, it's Ask and It Is Given by Esther Hicks, or The Secret, which talks about the law of attraction. And a lot of these books are good, and I actually recommend them, but they're missing key elements. And the major reason is the books that are written on success. I know most of the authors, as you do probably as well. And I've been on stage with them. I've been in their homes. I've talked to them on the phone. And none of these guys actually ran a business or started an enterprise. They made all their money selling books or audios or seminars on how to make money. That's where they made all their money. There was one guy who tried 3 businesses, went bankrupt 3 times, was living in the basement of his mother-in-law's house, called me up struggling, and he says, I figured out how to get rich. I go, how's that? He goes, I'm going to write a book on how to get rich. I go, but you went bankrupt 3 times. I know, but people will buy a book on how to get rich. While in his basement, he wrote a book on how to get rich, sold it online, and made over $1 million in the next 12 months. I said, but you're really a fraud, aren't you? I was kidding him because we knew each other. And he says, look, clearly this doesn't work, because if any of that stuff in the book worked, I wouldn't have gone bankrupt 3 times. But I know how to sell it, and people are so driven to want to make money, they'll buy it. And because I'm fed up with being broke. I don't care. Okay. And the book has some good information in it, but they're missing key elements that successful people do. I go to a place in Southern California called the Golden Door. There's 35 guys there. It's men's week. It's like a spa, and it's mostly women every week, but 6 weeks a year, it's men only. And these guys are worth, hundreds of millions of dollars. There's billionaires there. I can't mention names because it's kind of a private, men's club. I was at one of the weeks, and we kind of were adding up the net worth of everybody in there. It was almost $1 trillion. One guy was in charge of one of the largest hedge funds in the world. He was the founder, and everybody else put together. And that's a lot of money. And when you ask these guys, what do you do? What did you do when you first started? Did you do what's in this book? Did you do what's in that book? Did you do what's in this book? They laugh at you. They go, no. These guys don't know what they're talking about. They know about success, but they don't know success. This is what we do. And so there are some common denominators that very successful people will do that aren't in any of the books. And that's really what, look, I'm not a motivational speaker. And I had, we'll call it real businesses before I ever thought about writing this book or doing a seminar. That's not my business. My business was real businesses. And only because the people around me started making all this money. Over 100 people became multimillionaires in my world. I mean, one guy was a UPS truck driver. Another gal came over from South Africa, and she was a file clerk at minimum wage. She went on to become multimillionaire in real estate. Another guy was flipping pizzas, sleeping on a blow-up mattress in his mother-in-law's house while he was trying to start. And they all became multimillionaires. So people started, another guy was a travel agent, and he was living in a 1-bedroom apartment with his new wife, not making just barely making ends meet. And then he met me, and I started teaching him what to do. And he went off and started businesses doing hundreds of millions of British pounds a year in England. So people started saying, Kevin, what are you teaching these people? Because clearly it's creating success. Why don't you teach it like to other people? I said, that's not my business. That's not what I do. And it was only after so many years that people were hammering me, please teach it. I said, okay. So about 20 years ago now, I went into the Swiss Alps at one of the chalets. It was a big, huge compound, actually, of one of my brothers in the organization I was a part of called the Brotherhood. And I went there and I said, we're going to teach. We're going to bring 100 people in. We'll charge $50,000 for the weekend. So we'll get people that are serious. they can't be wealthy. They can't be millionaires. They got to be people who want.
How'd they afford $50K?
Well, that was the whole point. They had to figure it out. So we said, we want somebody who's serious. So they can't be a millionaire. They have to come up with the money. It's going to be a big sacrifice because we're going to see, does this actually work? So I brought them in, and to prove that what I was teaching was legitimate, I had the king of one country was a friend of mine there. I had president of the big organizations, global organizations that were there, very well known, billionaires, royal families, etc. And they basically gave the credibility because, who was I, that this is what we use in the highest levels of wealth in society around the world. And I taught for 2 days an algorithm, effectively, a 40-point algorithm on this is what creates success. There's actually a mathematical formula that I was taught back in my organization called the Brotherhood. And these points, if you do them, you get a score, and this will determine whether you produce what you want. You manifest your dream. Manifest is the big word today. Oh, we're going to manifest your dreams. You create wealth, you make money, you set a goal and achieve it. Those are the words that we used to say. Now it's manifesting. So I taught this for 2 days, and we entitled it Your Wish is Your Command, because your wish really can be your command. I recorded it. And then I went into the studio, and then I put it on CDs. Remember CDs? And we sold the CDs, and we would monitor these folks and said, what were the results? Well, over the next 5 years, the results were just astonishing. Virtually all of those 100 people in that room, all of them, starting from very low, all had a net worth of over $1 million in 5 years. Some of them went on to make tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And remember, these are people that tried everything else before. They went to this guy's seminar and this guy walking on fire and this and that. And it was like, look, nothing seems to be working. And when they went through this, they said, how come nobody else is teaching this or this or this or that? And I go, because they don't know about it. They know about success, but they don't know success. They were really never given the entire puzzle. When you think about, and guys, they're teaching how to make money seminars or how to manifest seminars. And they're always trying to come up with a new idea. I got to come up with something else to sell. I got to come up with a new idea. I just discovered this great thing, everybody. Pay me 10 grand for this. Oh, really? You just discovered it? You didn't know it? I'm not discovering anything, and I didn't make any of the stuff up or create it. I was taught it, and all I'm doing is sharing it. I was given the entire success puzzle, the entire thing. So all I do is now say, look, I have the whole puzzle. I'm not having to figure anything out new, and it's nothing that I'm creating. I'm just sharing with you, this is puzzle piece number 1. This is puzzle piece number 2. So as people go through the various puzzle pieces, they all connect because it's one puzzle. And I got the whole puzzle. Nobody has the whole puzzle. That whole puzzle is the 40-piece algorithm with everything in it. This is what causes and creates success. You can look at any person on the Forbes 400 list and and lay out this 40-point algorithm and saying, are these guys doing it? And you don't have to know them. You can just read about them and you can ask ChatGPT and they'll say, show me that if this guy is using these things, which is what we did. And they say, yes, here's the evidence that they're following this. Then if you can take, Joe Lunchbucket over here who's struggling, a nice person who really wants to be successful, but just can't seem to get it going. And you can see, you're not doing this, you're not doing, here's a perfect example. There was a guy who was struggling. He was teaching seminars on, get this, your words create your reality. That's what the seminar he was teaching. Kind of like Shad Helmstetter. What you say is what you get. Your tongue is a creative force. You're hung by the tongue. Okay.
Is that not true?
It's true. But here's,
I was going to say, I believe that.
It's 100% true. He was teaching seminars on it, but here's what he would do. He'd look at a contract or look at a deal, and out of habit, he would say this, well, I have a concern here. A concern? That means you're coming from fear. He didn't even realize that he was using the word concern. And that word concern, when looking at a contract, was putting out a vibrational frequency of fear, and it was creating lack of success. You can't have fear and succeed, right? It goes counter. It's a counter intention to you wanting to succeed. Fear of losing, fear. So he had all this fear. I said, look at that same contract. Change you don't even know what you're saying. He said it out of habit. I said, change it. When you find something in the contract that you don't like, saying, hey, I found something in the contract I have some questions about. Or I found something in this deal that I'd like some clarification on. No fear there, right? If you say you have a concern, there's fear. If you say I want clarification, I have some questions, or here's a better one. I found something in the contract I think we can make better. All you have to do is change the words. It's the same thing. But that little distinction I'll tell you what happened with this guy, because he's been a friend of mine for 30 years. When I taught him that, he didn't even know he was saying the word concern like nonstop out of his mouth. And he said, Kevin, I say that word all the time. I go, yeah, that means you're putting out fear. I'm changing it. And every time I say it, I say cancel, and I replace it. Virtually within 3 months, he signed a $10 million deal, and that's profit in his pocket. And he said, I just made more money than I had in the last 5 years. And it's all because of changing that word. So that's a little distinction that you have to know.
How did you know it?
Well, I saw him because I know the guy, see it happen all the time. He wasn't aware of his failure habit. So he didn't have that awareness. He wasn't conscious.
Is the word try?
Try is another one. If you use try, it's weak. That doesn't mean you're going to not succeed if you use try, but you can succeed faster if you say, I'm going to do it. That's it, period.
Yeah, I don't like the word try only because it kind of emits uncertainty.
Correct. It's like I might succeed or I might not. Now, yeah, you go as far as you can see. And when you get there, you see further. So that's true. But try is different than I'm going to do this.
Have you read The Science of Getting Rich?
Of course. Waddles. Exactly. And that's one of the original ones.
Yeah, he was before Think and Grow Rich.
Exactly. And there's even Charles Haniel, Master Key to Riches. And there was also, here's a book that's fantastic, by the way, written by a guy named Barnum. You know Barnum and Bailey Circus? P.T. Barnum, called The Way to Riches. No, The Art of Money Getting by P.T. Barnum, written in the 1800s. You read that book, it'll blow your mind. It's like everything that people are talking about today is in there, but there's more in there that nobody is talking about today. And it's a little thin book. And then here's another book, J. Paul Getty, How to Be Rich. He has a whole chapter in there on habits.
Are these on audio or are they like obscure books you can't find?
No, you can find How to Be Rich by J. Paul Getty. It's a paperback. Matter of fact, I have one back on my hotel. And I have the P.T. Barnum one, The Art of Money Getting. You can get it all over Amazon. And they're very small little books, but they're hard reads. Most people are going to have a hard time reading them because they're written in a different time and they're using words and syntax and grammar that people are not familiar with. So they're probably going to have a hard time grasping it. That's the challenge.
The Art of Money Getting, and what was the other one? The
Art of Money Getting by P.T. Barnum and How to Be Rich by J. Paul Getty.
Well, he knew something about it.
And he was awesome. And he says rich people have a habit of thrift.
That screws me.
Yeah. But when it comes to business, sure, we like to spend money and enjoy our life. That's fine. But when we look at business, there's a habit that we will get into. And these habits are what determines our speed of success. And also when there's a downturn, whether or not we can handle the downturn.
Well, yeah, that's just prudence, really. But I like this stuff only because I find myself a student of it. Mm-hmm. Now, as I told you, this company in the proper hands would have been $1 billion company already. I say in the proper hands. I might be talking myself out of the $1 billion thing. But I also am open to telling what I believe is the truth. And the truth is, shit, I should have done some things I didn't do. I didn't know to do them. So at the end of the day, I still have succeeded. However, I measure it against potential. Like, I don't think I've succeeded. Like, I think I've screwed it up, even though it's still successful. People would say I'm successful, but in reality, knowing what I could have done, I say I haven't succeeded.
Do you know Zig? You ever heard of Zig Ziglar?
Of course.
Okay. So Zig was a good friend of mine. We traveled together, and Zig said it, I think, best. He said, success is not what you've done compared to what other people have done. Success is really what you've done compared to what you could have done.
Well,
and here's a perfect example. You have an incredibly successful enterprise. You have a gorgeous office. I'm so impressed with your office. I'm so impressed with your staff. I'm impressed with all the coffee machines you have. I mean, I'm walking around going, this is great. I love this. Incredibly successful. And compared to what other people have done, you're on top of the heap, right? But then what you just said it best, but you're thinking, but man, what I could have done. Okay.
Because I'm not thrifty. Like I could have way cheaper stuff, but I like the best. So I could have been thrifty. I could have done a lot of things, but I'm still successful. So when I hear like quotes like John Paul Getty, I always think to myself, well, am I the exception or is that bullshit?
No. Well, remember, thrift is defined differently in the time when Getty wrote it. If you look up in a dictionary today, the definition of thrift versus the dictionary when he wrote it and the time where he was using the word. In the beginning of a business, this is when you have to be thrifty. You have to basically not eat your seed corn. You've heard that phrase, right? You can't eat your seed corn. You have to plant it. But when you're making money, there's nothing wrong with enjoying the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
That's you don't have to be miserly your whole life and, not buy nice things. It's perfectly fine to have a nice car and to buy jewelry or nice clothes. And you can still be thrifty.
So I want to, I got a million questions. We could literally be here for hours and hours, but hopefully you'll come back and we'll do a session 2. Once it drops and your DMs blow up, because they will.
Okay.
Maybe you'll be like, dude, that guy's got some listeners, because I do have listeners. But I want to give them the ability to get rich with what I call manifestation, which a lot of people think is hocus pocus. But in reality, it's not really hocus pocus. It's the words that you're using. It's the beliefs that you have. It's the intentions that you set. It's the small shifts. I mean, your book's talking about it.
Right. It gives us specific things. And we talked about words. Let me give you a couple other points of this algorithm that all wealthy people do. And again, you're going to be shaking your head because you know this better than anybody. I was sitting with a bunch of guys, and I've known some of these guys for 30, 40 years. I mean, we've been friends forever. And I said, look, I used to own several planes years ago. I like private planes because I don't like going through the airports. So it's more like I flew here on a private jet because I like it's much nicer than going through the airports. You save a lot of time. Okay.
And it's just bitching.
It's bitching. But I can get more work done. I'm there with my wife and we're going through, we have our computers, we're having business meetings, we're getting things done. It's a productive 4.5 hours from Chicago on that plane. We have a big plane and it's very productive and we come very refreshed. It's perfect. Okay. So I'm talking to these guys and going, listen, we really need to get a plane again. So let's talk about whether we want to challenge a 350, maybe a Falcon 900, maybe a Gulfstream. And one of the guys says, yeah, let's talk about that when we have the money. And I said, stop. And I went crazy. I jumped up and said, stop. No, you don't talk about it when you have the money. You talk about it when you don't have the money. That's how you get the money. It's called dream building. It goes, you've been around this a long time and you're falling back into this loser failure habit where you think, this is how much money I make. And that's all I'm going to talk about of what I can afford right now. No, you have to dream big because that's when the universe will figure out for you, manifest, how to come up with the money. So let's start thinking about it now when we don't have the money. And let's not think about how are we going to come up with the money. We just have to figure out what we want, and the universe, that's their job. They're going to figure out how.
Business owners, listen up. If your business needs more money, and it will, banks aren't built to move quick. They make you fill out a ton of paperwork, wait for a decision, and by that time, the opportunity is passed. So if you want bank rates without bank delays, you need to check out Cardiff. Cardiff's been helping businesses get same-day funding for over 20 years. We're talking up to $500,000 approved and funded quicker and easier than big banks. You can apply online in under 2 minutes and get funded as fast as the same day. So whether you need quick money to bridge a gap or do more marketing, get some equipment, or hire more people, I'm telling you, apply today at cardiff.co/Brad. Stop letting slow money cost you opportunities that move fast. There's no impact on your personal credit. So apply now at cardiff.co/Brad. Subject to approval, terms and rates vary. Cardiff, borrow better.
I was putting up a satellite over in Europe because I had 3 TV networks there. So we were on Sky Digital. And we had to go to Belgium. They had these rockets going up, and I had to buy this satellite. It was like $4 million. So I'm with the guy who's brand new. He used to work in the travel business, and he's learning. So I said, yeah, let's go down. And he thinks that I'm going to write a check for $4 million or something. So we go and we meet these guys for a nice lunch, and they're wining and dining us. And he says, it's $4 million. And I said, well, that sounds reasonable. I said, but I think we can do better than that. Okay. So we negotiate down to 3.2 million. I says, that's terrific. I says, but we don't have any money. This is a brand new business. We're not going to pay for that. I said, so why don't you put it up? And then I think a year from now, we can start making payments on it. Well, the guy over here who's with me is almost falling off the floor. He thinks like, how can you do this? And the guy's going, well, we usually don't do that. I go, I know, but the rocket's going up next week anyway. So just do it because it's not costing you anything. So I negotiate the deal.
Closed him.
You're damn right. I wasn't going to put up that money because the company didn't have it. And I said, we're going to build TV networks. And I didn't ask how we're going to come up with the money. I said, no, let's just figure out how much it costs. The universe will figure that out. And I didn't care. I also had done another step in the equation, the algorithm, which is release attachment to the outcome. I don't care if they say yes or no. I could care less. It doesn't matter. So I had no fear of them saying no because it didn't bother me one way or the other. I had released attachment to a particular outcome and they took the deal. And this guy couldn't believe it. I said, see? Because he kept on saying, how are we going to come up with the money? This is a brand new company. We don't have that money. How are we going to, are you going to invest the money? How are we going to, I said, stop asking how. I never want to hear that out of your mouth ever again. Stop asking how.
See, that's crazy because I always tell people to ask how, but the only reason is because I get the people that always say if, and it's like, it's not if, dude. It's not if, it's how. Like the question is how. Like it's not if you can become a multimillionaire. The question is how. So I'm saying, say how, you say don't say how.
Well, don't say how at the beginning. That's the key element there. You can't be focused on the how in the beginning. You have to know exactly what you want, dream big. You have to feel now as if you would feel if it was true. And then you have to release attachment to the outcome and say, if it never happens, it's perfectly okay. And then you can say, now, how am I going to actually do this? Because you're coming from a place where there's no fear of it not happening because you just released attachment to the outcome. And you can say, well, I don't know how. Universe, you figure it out for me.
Yeah.
And then the how will present itself.
It does.
It will present itself when you have released a fear that it won't, or a need that you have to know how before you start dreaming about what you want.
Yeah.
The dream has to come first. Walt Disney he was flat broke. They had stolen his cartoon character, the New York guys. They had stolen the cartoon character that was going to make him wealthy. A lot of people don't know what that cartoon character was.
Oswald.
Oswald the rabbit. Very good. Oswald the rabbit they stole. And he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he was actually building his plans for Disneyland when he had nothing. And he didn't even have Mickey Mouse. But he was thinking about his dream. And as he was dreaming about building Disneyland, that is when the universe said, let me show you how you're going to do it. And that's when he woke up in the middle of the night and said, wait a minute. Oswald the rabbit didn't make Walt Disney. Walt Disney made Oswald the rabbit. And if Walt Disney created Oswald the rabbit, Walt Disney could come up with another character. And in the middle of the night, he scribbled out Mickey Mouse, which gave him the money to build Disneyland. But you see how it went in steps?
Yeah.
He dreamed first, and then the universe gave him the how, and it presented it to him, and he took advantage of it. A lot of people are asking how, and then they get opportunities all the time, and they foo-foo it. And they go, oh, that won't work, or that they're skeptical. And you keep asking. Your wish has been granted. The universe keeps sending you a boat and a helicopter to save you, and you keep saying, no, I'm waiting for God to save me. It's right there in front of you. So you have to see and be aware and be conscious of what actually is being presented to you as well.
What do you say to people that say, oh, bullshit, Kevin? That's bullshit.
I say, stay broke. I'm not here to, look, guy told me a long time ago, Kevin, don't try to make a pig sing. You waste your time and annoy the pig. So if somebody says, oh, that's all bullshit, that's blah, 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 blah. You know what I say? I go, nothing. I say nothing. I'm not here to convince anybody.
Yeah.
I live a great life. Whether a person gets this book or takes advantage of a real estate opportunity that's being presented to them, or whether another person becomes a multimillionaire, it's not going to affect my lifestyle. Not going to affect my life at all.
How is your lifestyle now?
My lifestyle is awesome. Just imagine being able to live your day exactly the way you want, regardless of any outside circumstances. When you wake up in the morning, do you say, I love my life and I love being me?
Me, yes.
Yes. And when you go to sleep, the average person out there listening, do you say, oh, wow, I love my life and I love being me? And somebody says, well, Kevin, yeah, you got the Butler, you got the Rolls Royce, you got the Bentley, you have all the cars, you got the mansions, you got the penthouses, you fly in private jets, you got all the jewelry, you got the private chefs, you blah, 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 blah. You have all this money. And sure, it's easy to say that. Really? What if I told you I said that same thing and felt that exact same way when I was in prison being held for contempt of court because I wrote a book called Natural Cures they don't want you to know about and exposed the drug companies and they took everything away and I was penniless. And I still woke up in the morning in my little prison cell and said, I love my life and I love being me.
Were you really penniless though?
Oh yeah. They took everything. I came out with 2 suitcases and some old clothes.
When did you come out?
2021.
So I was going to get there to where with all this knowledge and, awareness and enlightenment, how in the hell did you find yourself in prison?
Good question. And people don't understand that the universe will give you what you're asking for most of the time in a manner in which you're not thinking is good. Example, I had a friend of mine say, I'm trying to quit smoking. I'm trying to quit smoking. I'm trying to quit smoking. Okay. So he went through this and that and this and that and this and that, and nothing seemed to work. He tried everything. The Allen Carr Easy Way to Quit Smoking, the patch, hypnosis, the ear thing, all types of acupuncture. Nothing worked. And he was a chain smoker. He smoked a pack, 1 to 2 packs a day. Major guy, thin guy, Okay. And he looked a lot older than he was because his skin was being affected by the cigarettes. And he also had 5 young girls. 5 young girls. And I said, okay, let's sit down. And I sat down with him and I said, make a decision that you're going to quit smoking. And just tell the universe to give you the how. Because obviously your willpower is not working it. You can't break this habit. That's right. And he said, I'm going to do it. I don't know how. I don't know how. I'm going to let the universe figure that out. But if it does, I am committed. I will quit smoking. Good. 3 days later, he doesn't show up for work. I call his wife. No answer at the house. Keep calling. No answer, no answer, no answer. At the end of the day, his wife calls. He had a massive heart attack. He's in intensive care. They don't know if he's going to make it. So I rushed down to the hospital. He's in intensive care. I can't talk to him. Next day, comes out of it. Go in to see him. And he says, Kevin, the doctor told me that if I don't quit smoking, I'm not going to see my girls graduate high school. He goes, I'm quitting smoking. He never smoked ever since. So the universe had to give him that heart attack so he could get what he wanted, which is to quit smoking. In my particular business, I had thousands of employees around the world, and I was asking the universe, I want to focus on my mission now. I had made all the money. I had done all the businesses, and now it's time for me to use my communication skills and to use my ability to influence people in a positive way and help them achieve mental certainty, freedom of uncontrollable and irrational emotions, manifest their goals, dreams, and desires, because I know the whole puzzle piece. It's time for me to start sharing it. Fine. And the universe said, I'm going to clear the decks and give you time to write the course I wrote called The Science of Personal Mastery course, put together in writing all of my knowledge. That's what I did for 8.5 years.
You went for 8.5 years?
8.5 years without being charged with a crime. I was charged with contempt of court because I would not stop talking about my book, Natural Cures, They Don't Want You to Know About on TV, where I exposed the drug companies. Everything that RFK is saying right now, by the way, is in my book, Natural Cures. The entire Make America Healthy Again movement is in there. From red dye number 5 and 3, high fructose corn syrup, genetically modified food, fluoride in the drinking water, on and on and on. All the things that are in the mainstream now.
Do you think if you didn't do that book, you would have been fine?
100%, because I was told that if I did that book, they would come after me. I was told.
Well, then why'd you do it?
Because I knew it was the right thing to do.
But was it?
It was the right thing to do. It started a movement. It was the #1 best-selling book that Walmart ever had. It sold 50 million copies. And I gave away all my profits and royalties to charity. I didn't even take any money from it. It says that right in the first page of the book. Walmart said, we have to put organic food now in our stores because of your damn book. McDonald's said, we have to have organic salad dressings and start having salads because of your book, because people are now interested. It was the #1 thing that started people becoming aware that the drug companies are publicly traded companies and they have one goal: make more money. It isn't to keep you healthy. If a drug company's goal was to keep you healthy, they'd all be bankrupt. Healthy people don't take drugs. Think about it. They want you to be sick and they want to treat a symptom and get you to take a drug every day for the rest of your life. That's their business model. And I exposed this in that book when I was on the Today Show with Matt Lauer and all the other shows. They would come and grab me. Matt Lauer grabbed me and said, Kevin, listen, talk about the Natural Cures book. Sell a lot of books, but don't mention the drug companies. They're our biggest advertiser. So the first question that Matt Lauer asked me on the Today Show, I don't even remember. I'm a memory expert and I can't remember what the question was, but all I remember was my answer. Matt, that's not the question. The question is, why did you just tell me 10 minutes ago not to talk about the drug companies because they're your biggest advertiser? That's what this book is about. You in the media and all of these shows are controlling the narrative and you're trying to convince people that they need to be taking pharmaceutical drugs. And that's what this book is about. It's exposing what's going on between you, the drug companies, and the FDA. And he was just like, oh my God.
When was this book written?
2005, 20 years ago.
So why did it take them 14 years to nab you?
Because there was nothing they could nab you on. First, they sent the IRS in. They lived with me for a while. And then they had to give me a check for $4 million back because I always overpay my taxes.
I do that too.
Yeah, so I just overpay. I just send them more money. Because that way, if they ever audit me, they owe me cash.
I had them come in here one time and they audited me for like 3 months. They set up shop.
Yeah, that's what they did. I used to give the guy coffee and sandwiches and everything. He had his own office.
Yeah, so one day I came in because I stay out of it. I don't like to pay attention to that shit. And so I asked my team, what happened? Where are they at? They said, oh, they left. I said, and they said, they just said, we don't know anything and left. And I said, that's probably because they realized I'm overpaying.
That's right.
And they need to get out of here before I realize it.
Yeah.
Because I don't like nickel dick the taxes. I didn't do it intentionally. Again, I just didn't write off the shit I probably could have.
Exactly. So we always err on the side of not just caution, but on the ultra conservative side. When my accountant say, yeah, you can deduct that. Nah, let's not. You can deduct that. No, let's not. That's not taxable income. Call it taxable income.
So they sent the IRS in. You got audited. That didn't work. Then what'd they do?
So then they sent the Federal Trade Commission after me.
Now, do you believe that these pharmaceutical companies have the ability to sick the IRS on people?
100%. Look, let's not live in a delusionary fantasy world here. We know that federal judges and state judges get phone calls from politicians and lobbyists. We know this. Let's not delude ourselves that this is not true. This happens all the time.
Aren't you worried about going back?
No, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because when the new administration came in, everybody in that top tier was moved out. And the previous group of politicians who were tied in with the drug companies, now with RFK, this is a completely new landscape. When that happened, I was still fighting with the government. The government said, let's settle. And I settled my case. And so my case is a settlement, no finding of wrongdoing. All my settlements with the government, I've never had a customer complain. It's always the government. And it's always the same thing. Government will go after somebody who is exposing something and saying something they don't want made public. Perfect example. Do you remember this? 1-800-ABCDEFG. Do you remember that? Hooked on Phonics. Hooked on Phonics was a home study course you would buy as a parent for your kids to teach your kids phonics. Why did you have to buy a home study course to teach your kids phonics? Because the Department of Education wanted to dumb down the kids. They got them on all the ADH medication and attention deficit disorder. So they got them on all the drugs. They put fluoride in the water to dumb them down. And then they said, let's take phonics out of the school system. So the kids can't read. And by the way, the reading levels of our kids today is at the lowest in recorded history of America when they're recording tests. So they took phonics out. So Sean Shanahan was a guy I knew. He had a company called Hooked on Phonics, and he would sell this course, an excellent course, teaching kids how to read by using phonics so you could sound words out, which is how you have to read. You can't use the look-see method. Like, here's cat, just repeat cat. You have to be able to say cat. Well, they took that out and just said, look at the word and just say it as a whole. Look, see, as opposed to phonics. The government didn't want him selling it. It was a home run, by the way. It did like 150 million in sales. So the government sued him. They hit him on 3 fronts all in the same week. They hit him on a lawsuit, froze his assets, and then had him crucified in the media. It was a coordinated effort by the government in collusion with the media to stop the guy, and collusion with the judge, who for some God unknown reason froze all of his business and personal assets, which means he couldn't defend himself. The guy went bankrupt. You never heard of Hooked on Phonics ever again. They did the same thing with me with Mega Memory, because I was exposing also this phonics being taken out of the schools, fluoride being put in the water, and also that they were getting all the kids on drugs. It was like, when you go to a school, it was like a bunch of geriatrics. Twice a day, they would walk around, come get your meds, come get your meds. These are kids in 7th grade. What do you mean, come get your meds twice a day? This is not a geriatric home. This is a school. And 80% of the kids are taking medication every day. Are you kidding me? So when I exposed that, they did the same thing. But I knew it was coming. So I had my assets in multiple jurisdictions around the world. It couldn't be frozen. And the judge said, I'm not going to freeze your assets because he realized there was nothing to freeze. And I fought because I had my lawyers teed up and ready because I said, look, these sons of a gun are going to come after me at some point. We know it. Let's start preparing now so we're not caught flat-footed. And I was on a private jet. I was on my private jet at the time, the one I owned, and I was flying in. Back then, you didn't have cell phone service on the plane. There was no Wi-Fi. So I land. As soon as I land, I turn my phone on. Ding, 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 ding. I get all these messages. My lawyer says, it happened. I go, they hit us? Yep, we got sued. Okay, let's go to war. And that's what happened. And I said, it's time to fight because we were ready for this. And I said, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. I don't care. I didn't have a family. I didn't have children to worry about. I loved being in the fight because it was the right thing to do.
Did you anticipate prison sentences?
I knew it was going to be coming. And to me...
But you must not have thought you were going to lose.
Oh, no. I knew I had no chance of winning. In one of the court hearings, the judge took me into chambers alone. That's illegal. He wanted to talk to me privately. That's illegal. And he took me into chambers. The government from the FTC was over here. My lawyers were not invited. It was just me and a judge. And he said, I'm going to rule against you 100% of the time. I'm not going to read anything you file. Settle. Just settle. You can't win this. It's over our heads. It's too big. And I'm going to rule against you all the time. And I said, I'm not going to settle. He goes, but I'm telling you, I'm not even going to read anything you file. I'm going to rule against you. And the appeals court's not going to go because they're all friends of mine. They're going to back me up. You can't win. I said, I know I can't win, but I'll win in the end. I'm not going to win all these battles, but I'm going to win the war. Ultimately, it's the right thing to do. And I got massive publicity. Most of it was negative, but it still worked because everybody who was reading the book, Natural Cures, knew everything he said in the book is true about how the government's going to come after him because it's playing out right in front of our very eyes. So every time that they would do something negative or the media would say something negative, book sales would skyrocket. So I knew I was positively impacting more people over and over again. And I didn't care about the money because it's like, Walt Disney, when they took everything away from him, he said, they can't take away my ability to create. So to me, when I went away, it was the greatest gift I ever got. I got everything taken away. I got to rest and relax for 8.5 years. I wrote the Science of Personal Mastery course. I put the final touches on Your Wish is Your Command. I meditated every day, did yoga, exercised, played ball, shot pool, learned 3 foreign languages. I played bridge, became a really good bridge player. Loved playing bridge. Met incredible people. Jeff Skilling was there from Enron. Jesse Jackson Jr. was there.
Where was this?
This was in a federal prison camp, Montgomery, Alabama. But even on the way there.
FCI low?
No, it was a camp.
That's even lower than low.
It's lower than a low. But I started at MCC in Chicago with guys going to be doing triple lives. The Latin King gang members. Oh, yeah, I murdered 9 guys.
How long did they keep you there?
I was there for 9 months. So the first 9 months.
That's just deciding where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to wait for the sentencing and then decide where I was going to be.
Did you petition for the camp?
No. Let the universe figure it out.
You should have put, was it nice?
It was to me, look, there were guys that were crying every night because they didn't want to be there. It's prison. Let's call it what it is. It's prison.
Well,
but
not really.
People would say, oh, it's not prison. Okay, why don't you go for a while? Tell me what you think.
Well, I mean,
it's
but it's not prison.
It's prison.
It's a camp.
It's a camp. It's a prison camp. When you're told, if you talk in line, you're going to be sent to the hole, put in shackles, and then put on a bus for 9 months. You're running in fear.
Diesel therapy.
Diesel therapy. You know the words. Yeah. So we were threatened with the hole, threatened with diesel therapy.
You're definitely under control, but it ain't prison. Thank God.
Well, when I was at MCC Chicago,
that's worse.
You're in the cell and the door shuts.
Yeah.
And you're in with somebody you don't know who could be a murderer. And I was in the cells with guys who murdered his last cellmate.
Did people know who you were?
Yeah, of course. I was on TV every single day.
Did you now again, I mean, like, how did they get all your money? Like, you weren't smart enough to move some of it?
No, here's why. Again, you understand? I understand the big picture here.
If I knew they were coming, Kevin, I would have said, okay.
No, you can't do that because then it's fraudulent conveyance of assets, and then you try to hide your money. And then if you lie under oath, it's perjury. No, you have to tell the truth. Look, I had a ton of businesses and I knew that they were coming. So I made sure my businesses were fully leveraged and all the money was given to charity. So I had businesses doing crazy amounts of money, but we weren't very liquid. So I said, look, I'm not very liquid. You want $37 million it wasn't a fine and it wasn't restitution. They wanted me to put this money in a bank account. And then if anybody wanted a refund from the book, it would come out of the bank account. And then after a few years, they would give the money back to me.
Was the whole thing about that book?
It was about the weight loss cure they don't want you to know about, but only because they tried to get me for natural cures and couldn't. So they came after me for the weight loss cure. And their argument was I misrepresented the contents of the book when I went on television and told people that I thought the weight loss cure that I did personally was easy, even though it says it's easy in the book and I tell my story. I said I'm accurately describing the book because I actually read from the book.
Now, what's the charge that they leveled against you?
Contempt of court. No fraud, no deception, no fine, no restitution.
Yeah, but why were you in court? They had to have said something.
What happened was way back when with Mega Memory, they said I made undocumented claims. I said, really, how do you know if they're documented? You never asked me to provide you the documentation. So I provided them 100 bankers boxes of documentation, showed them my lawyer's review of the transcript of the show, Selling Mega Memory, and that every statement made had documentation and substantiation to back every single statement up. They settled that with no finding of wrongdoing. Fine. And I agreed in that settlement that I would not in the future misrepresent the contents of any First Amendment publication, like a book. So I had an agreement with the court that I would not misrepresent the content. So that's a piece of paper. So years later, they said, I violated that agreement. Therefore, I should be held in contempt of court. And I violated it because when I went on television and said the weight loss cure was easy, they said it's not easy. I said, well,
why are they the judge?
I said, first off, question, Your Honor. You said it's not easy. Did you do the weight loss cure? No. Well, how do you know if it's easy or not? I goes, and if you did it and I did it, maybe both of us have different opinions. I saw an ad that said, learn skydiving. It's easy. I don't think that's easy. I don't think I'd ever be able to jump out of a plane. I think that would be really hard to skydive. But they say it's easy. And there's a lot of people that say, I went to the skydiving school and it was easy. It's very subjective, isn't it? I goes, I can walk down New York City and I see 100 signs that say world's best coffee. Really? It's the world's best coffee? Who says it's the world's best coffee? There's there's probably 500 signs in New York City outside of diners where it says world's best coffee.
Or realtors. They're always the top realtor.
Top, right? This is a subjective thing, but it didn't matter because the judge, remember, he told me he was not going to read my briefs. He was going to rule against me every single time. So when the government said, hold the guy in contempt of court and then let's throw him in prison to shut him up, it was an automatic.
Yeah, because you kind of just disappeared. Like you were out there, commercial, book. And then whatever happened to Kevin Trudau?
Yeah.
And then I forget what I was told. And it was obviously someone that doesn't know much, but just a regular person, no connected individual. They said something like, oh man, he got busted for fraud. And it's like, well, what was the fraud? He was claiming you'd become a millionaire, and he made a bunch of millionaires, and then no one made any money.
Yeah, 100% not true. That's not even on the internet.
Yeah, so
I don't know where that came from.
Well, again, knowing what I believe, which I think a lot of people are waking up to, the government and the media aren't necessarily the biggest truth tellers on the planet. And if you cross the real people, because it's not the government. The government is not in charge. Well, I mean, technically they are, but those phone calls, that whoever's making those phone calls, that's who's in charge.
Darn right.
And when you're making billions and billions and billions and trillions, if not billions of dollars, you can pick up the phone and cause anything you want to happen.
Correct.
And you got in their crosshairs.
Yeah. And, there's movies out there that talk about this. Do you remember The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Sure.
Yeah. I was just watching that a couple days ago. I hadn't seen it, actually, the whole movie all at one time. And it was an old movie. But back then, the media, the government, would splice and dice video and lie to the population. And it was, at that time, shocking to even consider that a news organization, a media outlet, or the government would misrepresent or mislead the public.
Or cover up.
It was a shock, right? That was a big thing. And then you have all these other movies that talk about, like a movie about big tobacco, where big tobacco had documentation proving that cigarette smoking was bad for your health and caused lung damage and potential death. They had the documents in their safes. They couldn't say that we have this, because then there'd be massive class action lawsuits and they'd all be bankrupt. So they would go in front of Congress over and over again and lie. They would say, we have no knowledge that cigarette smoking is unhealthy. We actually think cigarette smoking is healthy. And doctors recommend cigarette smoking and prescribe cigarette smoking. They would lie through their teeth under oath in front of Congress. And we know that now. It's not like it's a mystery. We know that they knew all along. We had President Clinton say there is no such thing as Area 51, Groom Lake. There's no base there. There's nothing there. It's a lie. It's a myth. It's a conspiracy theory. It doesn't exist. That came right out of his mouth. Then a few years later, he said, okay, well, when I said that, I lied because it was a secret. So I had to lie. Okay. They lie all the time.
Is the federal mandate for contempt 8 years? Like,
actually,
that sounds a lot freaking.
Actually, the federal mandate for contempt of court is in the United States Constitution. And it gives one judge the right to put you in prison for life. Most people don't know that. When you are held in contempt of court, the judge has the constitutional right to put you in prison for life. It's in the United States Constitution. When I sat there and was arraigned, the judge said, Mr. Trudau, do you realize that I have the right to put you in prison if found guilty for life? I said, yes, I
because you said a diet was easy.
Yeah. I said, yes, I realize that. He goes, and you don't want to settle.
Is there a jury?
There was a jury, but the jury is useless because the judge says, for example, to me, you can't use the First Amendment as a defense. I go, well, that is my defense. I was on television. I wrote a book. The book is protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution. I have the right to tell my opinions. Don't I? And then don't I have a right to go on TV and tell my opinion? Isn't that a First Amendment issue? So of course that's my defense. No, if you use the word First Amendment in this courtroom, I'm going to hold you in contempt again. Think about that.
Yeah, well, it's just, again, it's unfair, which is why I would wonder, why would you risk it?
So in my particular case, and everybody has to do what is right for them. This was the path. Do you remember one of those Marvel movies? I think it's Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange can see all the future potentialities. And in one particular movie, he has to give the key or something to the bad guy, which was going to end the world. And and they can't believe, the other Avengers cannot believe that Doctor Strange gives the key to the bad guy. And Strange says, there's only one possible way we can actually win. And that's me giving him the key. If I don't give him the key, we can't win. I saw all the potentialities. And of course, they win in the end. So in life, sometimes there's a road, a path. You ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah.
Okay. I went to Hana. Did you ever go to Hana? Okay. So Hana's on the Big Island, and there's a road to Hana.
Don't bring pork on it.
Yeah. No. The road to Hana is a bumpy road. It is a horrible 3-hour brutal drive, the road to Hana. And I went there with my good friend, and we were bumping along in he had one of those Volkswagen Things. Remember that car? The Thing? It was like a Jeep type, but it's Volkswagen. Horrible vehicle. So we're on this bump, and it's open, so the sun's beating down on us. It's dusty. It's the road to Hana. And when you get to Hana, you're in paradise. But the road to Hana is pretty brutal. Same thing. In life, sometimes people have to go through they have to go on the road to Hana in order to get to paradise. So I knew that my path was very specific. And think about it. If I could go through the adversity, other people would call it adversity. If I could go through what I went through and still maintain the attitude without being bitter and so forth, and then starting from zero, build it all back again and have a global empire once again in just a few short years, starting with nothing. Isn't that a good story? So I have probably one of the best personal examples of making, huge amounts of money with global business, going through what anybody would classify as adversity. And how did you deal with that? The way I looked at it was, I didn't go through adversity. Viktor Frankl did when he was in a Nazi concentration camp, wondering if he was going to be the next guy thrown in the ovens.
That's Man's Search for Meaning.
That's right. Man's Search for Meaning. He went through adversity. Now that's somebody that I can learn from. I didn't go through adversity. I mean, I went through something that most people want to throw up. They took all your stuff. I wasn't attached to my stuff. I'll get new stuff. I had a friend of mine who was on the verge of bankruptcy. The creditors were inventorying his house, and him and his wife were in tears. They were looking at all their stuff. And I says, what are you crying about? I goes, you get new stuff. That's all old stuff. It's somebody else's turn to enjoy that. Get some new stuff.
Well, again, maximum security prisons would have been a whole different
Well, I was
story.
there too. I was at the penitentiary in Lewisburg.
Not that any prison's good, folks, but at the end of the day, thank God you were at a camp.
I was at the penitentiary in Lewisburg. I was at the penitentiary in Atlanta. I was at Lovejoy. I was at the transfer facility in Oklahoma City. These are pretty rough and tumble places.
Yeah, you don't want to go there.
Look, at the end of the day, wherever you are, that's where you are. You can't resist what is. You have to acknowledge what is.
Yeah, but you could have settled.
I could have settled.
Why would you be willing to go to prison for 8 years just to be right?
Because if I settled, I couldn't fulfill my purpose or dharma or mission. That's why.
Can you now?
I can now. Now I have a clean slate. If I settle,
what if you go back and do it again and they just do it again?
No, that game is over.
Because again, I mean, like nothing's changed.
Nothing. Oh no, a lot has changed. Again, with this administration.
Yeah, but they'll be out in 4 years.
Yeah, but everything's already changed. The cat's out of the bag now. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Is your book for sale still?
Sure, Natural Cures, and the new one's coming out later this year.
So what are the natural cures because again, I mean, like B17, apricot seeds. I know a guy that had cancer. For somehow, I don't know how you would discover eating apricot seeds, but according to him, 8 apricot seeds, his cancer went away. Mm-hmm. He started telling people, and well,
that's what Laetrile comes from. I mean, that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, and selling apricot seeds, and then he went to prison.
Of course,
because you can't do that. And it's like, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense to me why they can't do it. Like, if I legitimately did something and I say I did something and it was the truth, how can they put me in prison? But they did.
There's a law. The law right now says you can't sell anything that treats, prevents, or cures a disease unless it's an approved drug by the FDA.
So why don't we change that as a population?
That is on, let's say, RFK's list to change, because you can't say orange juice can cure you of scurvy, even though we know it does. Scurvy is a vitamin C deficiency. And if you have scurvy and you drink some orange juice, in a day, you're cured of scurvy.
Is scurvy even a thing anymore?
Not so much, but let's assume you had scurvy.
Okay.
Like that's why the limeys, the British got that term limeys, because they used to bring limes, which lime meant citrus, on the ships. So they prevented scurvy. But if you said that on television, you are breaking the law. And not that the FDA would go after you, but they can. And they would win based on the law. You just made a disease claim. You just said that orange juice can cure, prevent, or treat a disease, and orange juice is not an approved drug by the FDA. Therefore, you broke the law. And that's what they get everybody for.
Yeah, I mean, that should be somebody's mission, is to like straighten out these laws that are, I think, abused in bad ways. Like, for example, the MLM industry. A lot of people think, oh, that's a pyramid scheme and blah, 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 blah. Well, and I'm not in network marketing, but I know people that are, and I understand the business. And this is a completely legitimate business. It's the product and the company that you got to worry about. But as far as the business plan, the business model, it makes sense. Well, if you're in MLM marketing, and let's say you're making $50,000 a month as a distributor of some product, you cannot show your check and make that claim.
Exactly.
Even though it's true.
No, in the old days, you could. You can't even show a lifestyle. In the Amway business, of course, Amway started by Rich DeVos and Jay Van Andel back in 1964. Previous to that, it was Nutrilite. They were distributors, started their own gig. Mary Kay Cosmetics back in 68, she started. Shackley started, Dr. Shackley. Herbalife with Mark Hughes. Then there was Vima, Monavie. Some of the Amway guys, Brighart, got involved in Monavie and those companies. And there was a whole bunch of others. Look, at the end of the day, if you're successful in that business, why can't I show you a check? Why can't I show you my car? Why can't I show you my house and saying, this lifestyle that I live came from me building this business?
That should be legal.
It should be legal, but it isn't.
That's what needs to change, though.
This is the hate of the government toward entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship in America is a word you never even hear anymore. Entrepreneurship. Capitalism, we hear a little bit, but we never hear of entrepreneurship. America was founded on entrepreneurship. People came to this country, immigrants from all over the world, at the turn of the century, not because they wanted a better life. They wanted their kids to have a better life. That's why they came. And that's what they said. They said, I'm coming and I'm going to sacrifice my life because I want an opportunity for my kids. They didn't come for a better life. They came so their kids would have a better life. And they worked their ass off 7 days a week so their kids had an opportunity. There was no welfare. There was no free lunch. There was nothing. Everything was nothing. You came here and you just had an opportunity. Entrepreneurship is the drive that says, I am self-sufficient. I can do it on my own. Go back to all the old movies where the Westerner, he's down on his luck, his crops failed or something, there's some famine, and somebody says, let me give you some money. And the guy says, I don't take charity. I can take care of my own. That was the mentality back then. They didn't even want to take charity from their neighbors to help them out. Let me give you a pumpkin pie. No, we don't take charity. This isn't charity. This is being neighborly. And then the guy would finally say, okay. But his mentality was entrepreneurial. It was like, I have self-determinism. I can do it on my own. So this is a trait that a lot of people today have lost. It is critical if you want to make money, if you want to feel good about yourself, to have that type of I can do it mentality as opposed to I need help from somebody else or the government. Having that I can do it mentality is a critical, and you know this because you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. They're feeling that their confidence in their abilities and in their ability to handle things and in their ability to get things done and in their ability to work things out, their confidence in themselves is higher than the average person, wouldn't you say?
Mostly.
Yeah. So this is an attitude that is not prevalent today, especially in younger folks, because they feel like they need help from the government. They need help. They need this. They need that. They can't do it on their own. And we start moving people toward the correct mentality, that millionaire mindset, where they do have what it takes. You know, Zig Ziglar said it best. A person is born to win. They're designed for accomplishment. They're engineered for success, and they are endowed with the seeds of greatness from birth. They have everything they need within them. All they have to do is turn the light switch on, turn the power on, make the decision that they're going to do it. That's it, period. And success is really a decision away.
If you could go back, would you settle?
No.
So you'd have went forward anyway.
And I'll tell you the reason why. Somebody says, okay, pick a few years of your life as your best years that you really got the greatest value, that you enjoyed the most. It was my time in federal prison camp Montgomery. It was the best time. No cell phone, no computer, no stress, no anxiety, no employees, no payroll to make. I played bridge, played tennis, shot pool. I mean, it was
carefree.
I was a summer camp effectively because I was making the best of this opportunity.
Yeah, but 8 years,
8.5 years went by in a New York minute.
Well, I always tell people, you know, it looks a lot longer moving forward than backwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like now it might seem like that, but going forward, that must have been forever.
It didn't really feel like it was forever. I mean,
Who was putting money on your books?
I had a fan club started. I had a lot of, because remember, I had no unhappy customers, and I had millions of customers around the world. So a group of my supporters started the Kevin Trudau fan club. And the Kevin Trudau fan club, people from around the world would send money to the fan club, and then the fan club would put money on my books. So I was...
And the government only lets you have a certain amount.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And then if the fan club said, you want me to send you a book or something? We have a little money here in the account. Yeah. And also save that money. So when I get out, I have something that I can start from. I can buy some toothpaste and some new clothes because I have a little.
So when you got out, you had no family at all? No wife, no kids, no nothing?
No wife, no kids, no mom and dad. They passed away while I was away. No siblings. I had no cousins.
All your businesses were closed?
All the businesses were closed.
This was only in 19?
Say again?
2019?
2013.
Oh, 13.
Yeah, I went away in 2013. So all the businesses were wiped out. I had an amazing group of friends from around the world. I mean, people that I've known since the 80s.
Yeah, but I mean, you got out in 2021.
2021, yeah.
Yeah, so like that's not that long ago.
No. I started with zero and I turned the whole thing around.
So what did you do?
Well, I had the Kevin Trudau fan club going, and people want to hear from me, hear about my experience. How did I deal with the adversity? So I said, well, if you want to make a monthly contribution to the fan club and become my partner, I'll do a live Zoom call once a month and you can ask me questions. And so people from all over the world would send in contributions, and I go, and your contribution is going to help me pay my legal bills, because I still had like $8 million in legal bills, and help pay off the government. And I'll keep a little so I could buy some clothes and get a place to live and buy, get a used car. And so I had contributions come in from around the world. And then people just started asking for more things. Can I get a one-on-one consulting with you? And I'll pay you for that. I'll give you a contribution. And if I can be on the phone with you for an hour. And then publishers would call and say, Kevin, you got to write another book. I mean, you sold 100 million copies of books. Everybody wants to hear your story. Can you write another book? And it was, one thing kind of led to the next. And then this whole podcast thing. And someone said, you should be on YouTube and you should be on social media. And again, the how just kind of presented itself. And then everything kind of happened and everything kind of came back stronger than ever.
So what is your main thing now? Are you trying to get back to the size and diversity you had, or you focused on like one thing?
Well, we have a private club that I started before I went away called the Global Information Network. We had members in over 150 countries around the world. And it was a success club. This was where people who wanted to learn that entire puzzle of all the puzzle pieces of how to manifest your goals, how to create the life you want, how to make money, how to deal with adversity, how to eliminate uncontrollable and irrational emotions. They could join the club, become friends, and develop associations with like-minded people from around the world. That collapsed when I went away because people joined to be with me, but it was still afloat. So when I came back, that club now is 10 times bigger than it was. I just purchased an entire cruise ship, Norwegian Cruise Line ship, the Pearl, 2,200 people for an entire week and their private island for a whole day. So I filled it. I owned the ship. So I filled it. All 2,200 passengers were members of my club from around the world for a whole week. And we had a whole day on the private island, went around the Caribbean. We just finished in January. So that club is thriving. And so that's something where I'm putting a lot of attention. But it acts as a nonprofit. We just put all the money back to member benefits. We have local chapter meetings around the world. It's kind of like YPO or some of these other groups where you can, meet like-minded people. But it's more than that. It's health, it's wellness, it's emotional and spiritual freedom, as well as how to make money and how to manifest. So I'm putting a lot of attention on that. I have the publishing company, which publishes this book, and I have Natural Cures coming out later and a whole bunch of other books that I'll be writing over the next few years. And we just launched a nutritional company called World's Best Nutritionals and Organics. Because of my book, Natural Cures, people always ask me what supplements I take. And I say, there's really nothing out there. They're all garbage because they're all getting their raw ingredients from China. And they're loaded with rat feces or mold, and the manifests are not true or accurate. So there's not a lot of good stuff out there. So I launched that company, which is in the process of producing the Rolls Royce of nutritional supplementation. So I'm building that so I can actually have supplements to take. And we have over 100 investors. We raise a lot of money for that. And so that's going to be launching later this year, and we'll probably take that company public. That'll be a $1 billion enterprise. So that's a big business. Then I have the YouTube show and some other social media things so that people kind of hear what we're doing. And
it's all at Kevin Trudau if anyone wants to go see it.
Yeah. It's kevintrudau.com. That's the website. Everything's kind of listed there. I do some one-on-one consulting. I actually have a really cool thing that I have now too, which it's called, when I was in the Brotherhood, my dad was a welder, right? And we learn by observing, right? Golfers, tennis players, they watch a great golfer and that's how they learn how to swing the golf club. Or a tennis player, they watch a great tennis player and you kind of get mentored from somebody who's really good. If you're in business, you watch a very successful business. Andrew Carnegie watched a successful businessman, and that's how he became successful. Same thing with Elon Musk. And they all had mentors who were very successful. You kind of mimic and model. Well, watching a welder dad, great guy, but how am I going to learn how to become successful? So in the Brotherhood, I was actually put into homes of very, very wealthy people to live for 24 hours or 48 hours and be a fly on the wall. So I would basically be silent for the entire time and just observe. So I could see how they made a phone call, how they wrote letters, how they dealt with their secretary, how they dealt with business meetings. What did they eat? When did they eat? When did they rest? How did they plan? How did they set goals? Did they yell and scream? What was their day like? I had no idea about how you actually get anything done in business. So by me watching these people, I'm like, oh my God, they actually wrote down a list of things to do and then prioritized it. Oh my God, he's actually writing stuff on a blackboard and then erasing, and he's thinking by writing. I didn't know that. I never saw that before. I didn't know that's what you did. He has a model of something that he wants to build, and he builds a small scale model of it. I didn't know you had to take a thought and actually create it in the physical universe in a miniature form first before it actually becomes something. I didn't know these things. So I offer at my home, people come for 24 hours. They come into the mansion And they're greeted by the butler, and they have all that jazz. So number one, they get wowed by the opulence of the place, all the gold and the baccarat crystal chandeliers and all this other great stuff. But they get to observe me for 24 hours, and I give them a little bit of a running commentary. So I tell them, this is how I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. They may see me make a business call. I'm sitting there, and a guy calls me. We're talking about private jets, and he owned 3 of them. He bought them for cash and this and that. Or another guy called me from Switzerland. He's got this $10 million deal he's giving me a piece of, because I helped mentor him back in the day when he was first starting off, and he's hit a bunch of home runs. And he says, he always supported me. So he goes, it's my turn to pay you back. Because I just did this big deal, and I'm going to give you a big piece of the pie here. And so they're hearing phone calls. They're seeing me write down goals, to-do lists, do Zooms, write on the whiteboard, have business meetings. How do I deal with my secretary? They see my filing cabinets and filing system and file folders and, my daily to-do list and calendar. So that's kind of a cool thing. So I have people come in, and we're getting these amazing letters from people saying, of all the success training I've ever had, this was kind of a missing piece for a lot of folks as well.
The videos from that Swiss Alps thing, are those still available?
We don't have the video, because back then video wasn't a common way to record. It was only audio. So the audios are available. The original audios of me doing that lecture over 25 years ago, they are still available. When people get the Your Wish is Your Command, they can get the audio bundle, which is me reading the book, which is what you're listening to, and the original version, where I actually was doing the live, and you hear some of the members of royalty there and so forth and so on.
What's the Brotherhood?
The Brotherhood is a secret society. It's a secret society akin to Yale University Skull and Bones, or the highest levels of Freemasonry above the 33 degree. There are other secret societies people are familiar with: Bohemian Grove, Bilderberg Group. Bilderberg Group is really not a secret society. It's just a group we used to meet every year. I was in that for many years, and it's more of an organizational networking thing, but not really a secret society like Skull and Bones or Bohemian Grove. But the Brotherhood is a secret society. It's global. It's been around for many, many years, hundreds or thousands of years. People who are in it are usually from a bloodline. So success breeds success. So if you're from a wealthy family, a royal family, you're in. Not all, but you can be in. You have to have some high intellect and something in your DNA or some ability in your brain to do something pretty special. And you could say there's an ESP or, being a psychic or energy. Well, it could be just somebody you can calculate really quick in your head. And you've seen, people calculate like a chess player. He can calculate the moves. I'm playing chess with this guy who's a grandmaster, and it's like the third move. He goes, "You lost." I go, "What are you talking?" He goes, "You can't win." He goes, "It's impossible for you to win." He goes, you cannot win from there. You can't. It's over. That's how good the guy is, because he can see, calculate everything in advance, right? So in the Brotherhood, I was brought in 1969 because I had the ability to see energy. And I was tapped because they knew I could see energy, because they could see energy as well. I was brought in and I was given a training program.
In 69?
1969, yeah.
How old are you?
I was born in 63. So I was 6 years old, Lynn, Massachusetts, at the post office bowling alley. 10 lanes underneath the post office in West Lynn on Western Ave. My mom and dad were members of a bowling league, and they would take me along. And one of the guys came up to me and he says, "You can see what's in the corner, can't you?" Because I could see energy. And I didn't really know that people couldn't see this, because when you're seeing, it's not like, if you need glasses when you're a kid, you don't know that you need glasses. You just think that this is how you see the world. Until somebody puts the glasses on and it's like, "Oh my God, I didn't know it was something more than that." You don't know you need glasses if you have nothing to compare it against, if you've always had bad vision. So when you always see energy, things swirling around. It's like it morphs, like the tree kind of morphs from the physical tree to actually the energetic behind it. You think everybody does until you start looking, and you're looking at people and you're thinking, actually, everybody's asleep. They're almost in a trance, or really asleep is a better word. So when this person came up to me, I looked, and he was very bright. His energy was very bright, and his mind was very bright. And he said, "You can see what's in the corner." And I said, "Yes." And he says, "I can help." He goes, "But you can't control it." And I says, "No, I can't control that." He goes, "I can teach you how to control it." So I'm in the brotherhood at that point. Now, not officially inducted in, but I was brought in, and he would basically train me, gave me some cassettes to listen to, gave me some mental exercises to do with focus, twisting, going inside the pineal gland to the heart, below the navel, breathing techniques. And I started to learn this. And then I was brought into the brotherhood, and I realized that they were the group that kind of is the shadow government behind all the governments. And they control a lot of the way the things are operating around the world.
Well, why wouldn't they help you out of your jam?
I was leaving the brotherhood, and so the jam was partially caused by them. One of the things that the brotherhood believed is that the ends justify the means. So they have a plan, which at the end sounds pretty good. No crime, no wars, no starvation. Okay, pretty good. But in order to get there, there's going to be a lot of havoc. And their strong belief is that there's a certain group of people in their DNA that are destined to govern and have the ability to govern. And therefore, they have to be the ones controlling, because they're the ones who can see all the moves on the chess game. And therefore, the training is only for them. My feeling was, no, there's a lot of people, maybe like me, that didn't come from a particular bloodline, that maybe should be exposed to how to dream big, release abilities, and create the life they want, and stop being controlled by the, puppeteers.
The Matrix.
Yes. And so that's where the differentiation was. So I decided, no, I think that I should be teaching people what I have been trained in. Not that everyone's going to buy into it. A lot of people are too stupid, quite frankly, that they're just not going to buy into it. Oh, that's crap, that bullshit. Okay, that's fine. And, how's your thinking working out for you?
Yeah. Skeptics.
Yeah, well, listen, no problem, But again, how's it working out for you? So I decided to go down this road, and that's where the disconnect was. So when I decided to leave, I was in that discussion about leaving, and they made sure that I knew what the potential ramifications were.
Yeah. So to me, it's like, that's the only part I don't get. Like, I'm a pretty valiant guy, and I would, die for the right cause, but threaten me with prison, and
here's the reason why
8 years in prison. I'd be like, okay, well, fuck, I guess people can figure out that apricot seeds cure cancer another way.
I'll tell you the reason why. Because think of the adventure. When we were kids, right? When we were kids, we would get together with a bunch of guys. So let's go out Friday night. What do you want to do? Let's get into some trouble. Let's do something crazy. And we wanted to do something crazy. And we would like running through we'd do something, and I'll be chased by some guy out of his house, and we'd be running through the woods and get all muddy, fall down a hill and bang get all bloodied up. And we go, man, wasn't that the best time? We wanted adventure. We wanted to be lost. We wanted to go on a road trip and get lost and run out of gas and have to siphon some gas. This was fun. This was adventure. We wanted adventure. And then when we get older, we don't want adventure anymore. So to me, going to prison was not something that I wanted to avoid. I looked at it two ways. Number one, this is an exciting adventure. This is amazing. I would never have this opportunity to spend this much time on such a long adventure. This is an adventure. Number 2.
Yeah, but it's an adventure getting your ass kicked too, but I don't see you in the UFC.
Right. I don't like that type of adventure. I knew this was a safe adventure, but this was going to be an adventure. I was going to meet people I would never meet before from different economic, places and different parts of the country and different races and religion. This was an adventure. Secondly, this was a gift because I had so many books I wanted to read. I didn't have time. I wanted to exercise and get in shape. I didn't have time. I wanted to work on my tennis game, my pool game. I wanted to learn German and Italian. I didn't have time. I wanted to learn bridge. I didn't have time. I wanted to read the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, and I didn't have time. I wanted to study the Bible, both Old and New Testament, read the Kabbalah, read the Zohar. I didn't have time.
Well, it wasn't a priority now that you know.
Right. But now I had time to do all these things that I wanted to do, but didn't have the time to do. And I wanted to write all of my training that I got in the Brotherhood. I wanted to write it down in lessons, just like I got it.
So where is this training now?
It's available in my private club, the Global Information Network. It's called the Science of Personal Mastery course. There's 100 lessons. You go through one lesson at a time. It's written. You have to read it. And then I give you mental drills to do and different things to do to release mental abilities. It increases concentration and focus and basically allows you to control your mind in the same way that you can control a big German shepherd or an orca. Now you see these, they train an orca to do whatever it wants, or a dolphin. You can train a dog to do whatever it wants, right? But you can't control your mind. Your mind just talks on top. You have no control over your mind. The thoughts just come in and you can't control it. It's kind of sad. But you can learn how to control your mind and shut it off and say, nope, cancel. Just like you can tell a dog, sit. And the dog will just sit there and not move. Roll over.
If it's trained, yeah.
If it's trained, same thing with your mind. So when you train your mind, now you can control your mind. And when you can control your mind, you can control your life. You can control your emotions. You can then focus your attention on what you want in a narrow beam on a brainwave frequency right in between alpha and theta, which is really the wealth wave, the billionaire brainwave. And you can now think about what you want and you can broadcast it on that narrow beam into the universe. When you're on that vibrational frequency and you put out that picture of you in possession of what you want on that, it actually vibrates into the physical universe more than if you're on beta, for example, which is kind of weak. It's a weak broadcast, not picked up very much by the universe or the physical universe. So when you learn how to do that, then you can really manifest things easier than before.
Last question. If there's someone that believes in manifestation, but they've been trying, but it doesn't seem to be showing up, what do you think the main thing they're probably doing wrong? Well, now, before you answer that,
yeah,
like Think and Grow Rich, for example,
yeah,
I always tell people they're missing the emotion. They're missing the feeling. In other words, like you can't just sit there and wish for something and it just appears. Although I do believe in manifestation in the magical sense, meaning I've done it. And I don't know if I'm just the luckiest guy in the world.
No, you're not. It's exactly how it works. What one man has done, you can do also.
Like the other day I was talking on social media, they clipped a post of me talking about when I went into a casino. We were at the Cosmopolitan, I believe. And I was drinking, I used to drink a lot, but we were having fun. Super Bowl, watch the Super Bowl. My wife likes roulette. We walk outside. I called 5 numbers in a row. In a row. They kicked me out the whole bit. Wife was there, other witnesses. Everyone on social media says, bullshit, dude. That no freaking way, dude. That's like 1 trillion to 1. Dude, I don't give a shit if it's 1 zillion to 1. I did it. And I don't know how I did it. And I can't do it every day or I'd be at the casinos. But I did it. So I think, again, I think there is a universal like knowledge. And if you can somehow tap into it, whether it's accidental or not, and I believe manifestation and the stuff that you're kind of training people is real as long as you like get it down. And I think the biggest thing most people miss is the emotion, the feeling, the vibration, the frequency.
Mm-hmm. There's a formula. I mentioned there's 40 points of the algorithm, but there's a basic formula for manifestation, which is part of that algorithm. If you were to ask somebody, what is the manifestation formula? Almost nobody, even though they've read all the books, they can't even tell you, which is kind of sad. But Napoleon Hill says, define your dream and get a burning desire for its achievement. Okay. So if you break that down, number one, he says, define with specificity what you want. You wouldn't believe this. People pay $5,000 to be on the Zoom with me for an hour. And I'm booked out. Every time I open up, they just book. And people want to book again and again. Okay. And when I talk to people, I say, what do you want to talk about? I'm trying to make some more money. You know, I'm just not manifesting as fast as I want. Great. What exactly do you want? Well, stop. What are you thinking about? If I said, what's your name? You don't say, oh, well, hold on, let me think. You know your name. You know your address. You know your phone number. How come you don't know what you want? Unless you know what you want specifically, instantaneously, you're not going to get it. It's cloudy. So defining your dream with specificity and be constantly thinking about it all the time, because you become what you think about most of the time. That's Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret, is step one. Most people don't even know. Number two, you have to see yourself in possession of what you want. A mental image picture, clear, with all of the details. What does it smell like? What does it sound like? What does it feel? But what does it look like? And what you just said, the little missing wiffle dust, is when you see yourself in possession of what you want, you have to feel right now as if you would feel if you were actually in possession of it right now. Feel that emotion. That has to be there.
People would only assume what it feels like.
Correct. You can guess. You can imagine. Oh, you want a new Porsche? Fine. You want your credit cards to be at zero? What do you think? How do you think you would feel if all your credit card balances were at zero, you had no debt, and you had $100,000 cash in the bank? How do you think you'd feel? All right, we'll feel that way. Let's start there. So those are the things, but there's a couple other elements that are missing that people don't know. So if somebody is even doing that, which they're probably not, and they're not manifesting, I'll give you two that they're probably blowing it on. So define your dream with specificity, see a picture of yourself in attainment of it, in possession of it, and feel now as if you would feel if you actually were in possession of what you want. And then release an attachment to getting it.
So that's what I must be missing.
By saying, and you know, if it never happens, I could care less. You release attachment to the outcome. This eliminates fear of not getting it, which is a counterintention. It eliminates it instantly, which is why, it always happens when I least expected it. That's right. You weren't expecting it. You least expected it. That's when you found, because you released attachment to the outcome. That's when it can manifest. So that releasing attachment to the outcome, letting go. There's a whole book by Hawkins about letting go, surrendering, being a state of allowing is what Esther Hicks calls it. It's releasing attachment to the outcome. But there's something that has to happen before that nobody talks about. You can't find it in any book. It's the why behind the why. It's the reason Michael Jordan is a champion and champions are champions. Champions love winning. Agree? They love winning. They hate losing more. Think about that. A champion loves to win, but he hates losing more. Vince Lombardi, great coach of the Green Bay Packers, said, show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. Winners hate to lose. So the first thing that you have to do, and nobody talks about this in any book on success, is what is your pain point? What in your life right now are you fed up with that you are not going to tolerate anymore? Are you sick and tired of? What is it? What is it? Is it your credit card being maxed out? Is it not being able to afford stuff for your kids? Is it not being able to go to the restaurant you want to go to? What is that? The fact you can't get a new car? You can't get a new house? You can't get that boat you always dreamed of? You can't get that fishing rod you want? What is it that you will not tolerate anymore, that you absolutely will not tolerate anymore? Where's your pain? Where's that pain? Unless you find that, unless you contract that energy, you're never going to be motivated to do anything else. Remember the Rocky movie when he was fighting Clubber Lang, Mr. T? So Rocky's in the corner and Mr. T, Clubber Lang, is beating the hell out of Rocky. And his two guys are over there going, what the hell is Rocky doing? He's getting killed. And the other guy goes, no, he's not. He's getting mad. He had to get mad before he could take action, had to contract that energy. There was a dog laying down, an old hound dog, on this wooden porch. And this dog was just lying there. And every once in a while, the dog would go, oh, lift his head a little bit and then go back down. A little while later, oh. This went on for about 15 minutes. Every 5 minutes or so, the dog would be howling. So the guy says, what's wrong with your dog? He goes, oh, he's lying on a nail. Lying on a nail. Why doesn't he move? Well, it doesn't hurt him that bad. He doesn't have enough pain to move. Most people don't have enough pain. You need to get some pain. And someone says, well, how? I live a great life. Yeah, be mentally broke. Make it up. Play a game. I have a nice life. So it's like, you know what the game is? I go into the first class section of the plane and I go, this is disgusting. How can I live another day flying in first class? I need a private jet. You start playing the game and you're acting. But the point is, act that way. You have to come up with some pain point. Otherwise, the universe is going to fall asleep and not manifest anything for you. So you have to find out what you will not tolerate anymore first, and then you define what you want. You have to know what you don't want clearly, and it has to hurt. And from that point, you can catapult yourself and clearly define what you not only want, but must have. That's a burning desire. And that's what Napoleon Hill was talking about when he says, define your dream and get a burning desire for its achievement. It's a burning desire for its achievement because it's going to get rid of your pain. You're not trying to get pleasure. You're avoiding the pain. You hate losing. I will not lose. I'm winning because I will not lose. The thought of losing is so painful. I'm going to win. I'm going to run faster than this other guy because the thought of losing is so painful to me. I'm going to win. That's the secret. It's the why behind the why. And it's the reason why champions are champions.
Have you read U Squared?
Yes.
That's
excellent book.
That's like
fantastic book.
Little Joe Dispenza, Quantum.
Yes.
Starting to look into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Based on what you said, I'm lacking the pain because I always think, well, I practice gratitude.
That's correct. And so people always say, Kevin, when I talk to success gurus who teach this, they're like, wait a minute, Kevin, we talk about gratitude and appreciation. I go, calm down. I didn't say live there. I said, visit there. You have to visit the pain point. You don't live there.
Well, when you say specificity, if I were to say, because again, I'm already what some people would call rich.
Yeah.
But not in my mind. Why? Well, because dude, I still have concerns. I still have concerns. Okay. I still have
famous word.
Yeah. But like, I don't, based on what you just said, I don't release,
attachment to the other. Yeah. So these are
I'll
two
try
things.
That.
I'll tell you that you add these two things in. And again, it's
because I need to be a billionaire.
There you go. And when you put that down in specificity, I want 200 million cash in the bank in this account, this Fidelity account. That's what I want to see. When I look at my app, that's what I want. So that's specificity, right? I have to have it. Okay. Now release attachment alcohol. But you know something? I could care less. I could care less. If I lose everything, I could care less. It doesn't matter. Now you're in a state of what? Gratitude and appreciation for what you have. So you visit the pain. You visit the dream because You have to have a dream, but you can't live in a dream world.
Well, is 1 billion specific enough?
It is. But remember, that's a dream, right? Because if you go from, let's say, 30 million to 1 billion, that's a big jump, right? So you dream big. You have to dream big. And a lot of people don't do that. You have to dream big. But after you dream big, then you go, but what's my next logical step? I got 30 million. Let me get 35. So when you dream big, I want 1 billion in the bank. I only got 30 million in the bank. Okay. When you dream big, that stretches the rubber band. So now when you go and say, I'm at 30, I want to go to 35, it's like, that's a cakewalk because you've expanded your dream. See, when you expand it first, really expand it, now you go and set the next logical step. It's like nothing. Then you hit it so fast. And all of a sudden, when we had partners in the Kevin Trudau fan club, I sat down with one of the supporters who started the fan club. And I said, listen, how many partners do we have? Well, we have 102. Okay. We have 102 partners contributing $25 a month to me so I could rebuild. Okay. And we didn't know anything about social media. Nobody even knew it existed. I said, well, what's our goal? I said, no, what's our dream? What's our dream of how many members? Oh, I don't know, she says. I says, I have a dream of 100,000 members. She was like, what? Because she couldn't dream that big. So you have to dream big. I said, just dream for a minute. 100,000 members. Think of all the things we could do for those partners. 100,000 partners. We could give money back to the partners. We could put on events for the partners. We could bring on conventions for the partners. We could just do so many things for the partners. Let's think about how they're going to benefit, how wonderful it would be. Okay, good. Now that's a fantasy. That's a dream. It'll probably never happen. So let's think of our next logical step. We're at 102. How if we get to 125? Yeah. And what if we get there in the next 6 months? Let's set that as a goal. That's very reasonable. It wouldn't have been reasonable a minute ago, but because we played the expansion dream game, now it's very reasonable. Guess what? We hit it in 3 weeks.
Well, with social media, you could hit that after this show.
Well, we didn't even know we had social media. We didn't know anything. We didn't do anything. Here's the beautiful part. We did nothing. You know what we did for 3 weeks? We were having meetings saying, how are we going to get from 102 to 125? Because I didn't know anything about social media. I've never been on Facebook or X or Instagram or anything. I was in prison for 8.5 years. I'd never owned a smartphone. When I went away, I had a flip phone. So I didn't know any of this stuff. So while we were discussing how are we going to do it, the universe all of a sudden just magically makes the number go up because people were telling other people about it. And we got to the 125 like that. And I said, hey, we need to set another goal.
Who do you think made this universe?
Oh, that's another episode, my friend.
Well, that would be an interesting.
We'll hold that for another time.
Yeah, because that's a question. I always hear when people talk about universe, they never say God, though. I don't know if it's because they don't believe in one or because, if you believe in all this universal, power, well, then who made the universe? But we'll make that episode 2. Folks, there you go. You guys know where to find him. You probably already did, but now you do. Kevin Trudau. That's Trudeau. You guys go get the audio book. I can personally attest it's a well-read book. It's actually enjoyable. A lot of good content there. If you want to join the global network, go to kevintrudau.com. And, whatever you do, folks, believe, because I'm telling you right now, I've done it. I'm just still a student. So I might be your neighbor in that thing. Appreciate the book. Appreciate you visit. And if there's anything the Bomb Squad can do, tell them what they can do. What can they do for you?
Well, just go to kevintrudau.com. And if I could say anything, it would be this. Don't let anyone steal your dream.
There you go. And it's been a bomb the whole time, but I didn't want to carpet bomb the whole thing. Till next time, folks, keep it real.